With Battlefield 6 releasing this week, people have widely been discussing open weapons versus closed weapons. And after thinking about it for quite some time, I do just think that open weapons is just way better. And I don't see how the majority isn't agreeing on this, because personally I don't see the disadvantages of open weapons. And most of the time when people argue about it, they use arguments like balancing and class identities for closed weapons. But I feel like they could be just as well used for open weapons. So in this video, I'm not just going to talk why open weapons is better, I'm also going to talk about the counter arguments people use against it, and I'm going to talk about why I think the closed weapons in Battlefield 6 actually sucks. Starting with why open weapons is actually better. The first and most important point here is that it allows for a much more gameplay variety. While classes are often designed to work in a certain way, that doesn't mean that that's the only way to play them. For example, the Recon is designed as a sniper class, but you can just as well play him as a close quarters class, sometimes even more effectively than as a sniper. Especially since many of the gadgets he has do support the close quarters playstyle more than the sniping playstyle. The same also goes for the support class, as the medic aspect of it doesn't really get supported by the MG, as you will run around a lot and want a more light and more mobile weapon. And don't just say, just use carbines, because I'm going to talk about that argument later. The second aspect that profits from open weapons is balancing, both in the sense of weapon balancing and in the sense of having a balanced team composition. While open weapons doesn't affect weapon balance itself, it does limit the effects of bad weapon balance. For example, when an AR gets OP in closed weapons, you will suddenly see a ton more of assaults running around the battlefield. Additionally, whenever you are trying to play another class, your time will be way worse, as in every engagement with another assault, you will be in a large disadvantage. While in open weapons, where the assault rifle pick rate will probably be slightly higher, the assault class pick rate will mostly stay the same. And if you're trying to play another class, you can't just pick the assault rifle, giving you a fair fight with another assault. Which I personally do think is well worth the higher assault rifle pick rate. As for how it affects the class spread balance, I also think that it majorly benefits from open weapons. Since weapons kinda dictate how you wanna engage the enemy, they also somewhat dictate your playstyle and on what areas of the map you will be fighting in. For example, with a submachine gun you want to be in close quarters, meaning that you will be fighting a lot in and around buildings, while with a sniper rifle you want to be on long ranges, meaning that you will be fighting on open fields. In closed weapons, this means that you will often be picking the class for the weapons, not the roles that they fill. As an example, on CQC focused maps this could mean that you want to avoid the support and recon classes, as the sniper rifles and LMGs aren't really fit for the close quarters combat. While in open weapons, this would never be a problem as you have access to any weapon, meaning that the only reason why you would ever be picking a class would be for the roles that it fills. Now that I've talked a lot about how open weapons would affect Battlefield, let's talk about how it wouldn't affect it. Starting with the class identities. Contrary to popular belief, the identities of the classes aren't defined by the weapons they have, but instead by their gadgets. This does become very obvious when you look at the unique weapons in Battlefield 6, as the machine gun only supports half of the support's playstyle, and the MP doesn't support the NG's playstyle at all. But more on that later. And if you do wanna argue against that, please explain to me how the playstyle of any of the Battlefield 6 classes depends on the unique weapons. Otherwise, let's talk about what the roles of the classes really depend on. For this, I'm going to be using the two classes where I think that it is the most obvious, the engineer and the support. Starting with the engineer, he is a very vehicle focused class, focusing on repairing his team's vehicles and destroying the enemies. And considering that not a single weapon is able to repair or damage a vehicle, I think it is already pretty obvious how the weapon doesn't affect this role. But what does affect it are the gadgets. For the engineer, the two primary ones here would be the repair tool to repair allied vehicles and the RPG to damage enemy vehicles. And the same does go for the support, just here the roles aren't repairing and damaging vehicles. It's healing allies and giving them ammunitions. The two most important tools here are the defibrillator to revive down teammates, and the ammunition box to give allies ammunitions and restore their gadget charges. And here again, the role doesn't require any specific type of weapon. Furthermore, I personally do even think that it profits even more from open weapons than any other class would. And this is because this class wants to be played in combination with any of the other classes, meaning that it also wants to be able to adapt their loadout to the playstyle of the other class. And even for the one class where you could argue that the class's identity is based on the weapon, I would actually say that it goes the other way around. Because the assault is essentially the tip of the spear class, focusing on pushing the front lines forward and pushing the enemies back. It makes sense that he usually runs the assault rifle, the MP or the shotgun, since those are the weapons most fitting for this role. Showing that even here the weapons aren't picked because they define the identity of the class, but because they fit it the best. Additionally, just like with the engineer and the support, you can see here again how much closed weapons doesn't just not help Battlefield, but actually hurts it. Because just like how the machine gun does only support half of the support's identity, and the MP doesn't actually support the engineer's identity, since you will be rarely finding vehicles in buildings, the AR doesn't actually support the assault's identity that much. And the only reason why you would ever pick it over something like the MP and the shotgun is because you have a second weapon slot and can pick the other weapon anyways. But somehow people are still saying the closed weapons needs to be in the game because the classes would lose their identities, while for pretty much every class the unique weapon doesn't even fit the class's playstyle. If you actually want the closed weapons that were part of the class's identities, the assault would have the shotgun, the engineer would have the AR or the EMR or the MG, and the support would have the MP. And I don't really want to speak about the recon because I don't play it that much, but even there, the sniper doesn't really entirely fit. And lastly, let's discuss an argument that most closed weapons defenders bring up whenever you say that a certain weapon should be accessible to every class. Just use carbines. This argument often gets used when people say that they want to use the MP on literally any other class since there it would actually serve a purpose, to make it seem like the effects of closed weapons aren't as bad as it seems. It's also the argument that gets used when somebody says the AR should be an open weapon, or that they want to use the MG on the engineer. And I really hate this argument, because it either goes against everything the closed weapon stands for, or it is a band-aid solution to something that actually causes a problem. For the first one, I just don't see why the carbine should be an open weapon when both the MP and the AR are unique weapons. Because what's the point in restricting those two when every class still has access to the carbines? And for the latter one, this is exactly what I talked about when I said that the classes have the wrong unique weapons. Because half of the complaints of people wanting to use a different weapon on the class is because the weapon doesn't fit the class's playstyle. And telling everybody to just use the carbine just puts a band-aid on a problem that could be fixed with open weapons. Especially since the carbines already put you halfway there. With this, we have reached the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. And if you disagree with my takes, please explain to me in the comments why. Because I do want to understand the other side of this discussion too. With that, thanks for watching and bye.